Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news, and we've got so much to get through today from very credible people. I don't think we're wandering away from tier 1s and tier 2 credibility here on how you rank these transfer outlets. So look, let's start off with the big line. It's the line from the United Stand. It's the line from Fabrizio Romano. Manchester United are in love with Jadon Sancho. Solskjaer, the management, everybody in Manchester United is in love with Jadon Sancho. Manchester United are in talks with Jadon Sancho's people. They want this deal to happen. This is from Fabrizio Romano. I said it 2 weeks ago. We had it from Fabrizio Romano last night. You can check that full interview out. The link's in the video description. We've got all the timestamps now and all the relevance bits. The Pogba, the Sancho, the Lingard, Chiesa, United's future. It's all there. Links in the video description for that. I think it's actually in the top comment. But look, there's nowhere to go with Sancho at the moment. We want Sancho. We know we want Sancho. There's actually another story this morning coming out from Sam Pilger in Forbes magazine, who also writes for The Times, saying Manchester United still want to do this deal. They're still confident they can do this deal. But as we all know, as I said 2 weeks ago, as Fabrizio said yesterday, and as anybody with any credibility will tell you, this deal can't be done until Dortmund are dealing with Manchester United, and that will not happen until the transfer window opens, whenever that is. But confidence around that deal is very, very, very important. Also going to be talking about a Q&A that Di Marzio did with Sky yesterday, and Sky Cave as well, who have both got credibility around Manchester United in the recent past. Di Marzio actually answered one of my questions. I mean, look, I don't want to be overexcited here, but I interviewed Fabrizio Romano yesterday, and Di Marzio answered my question about Paul Pogba. It's pretty. You don't normally get those sort of days, but look, it's great for us as United fans to get proper information that's not coming from places that we don't always trust. So we'll delve into that. There's something about Declan Rice who we were talking about yesterday, but let's start off with Partey. We've spoken about Sancho. We know the situation with Sancho. United love Sancho. United want Sancho. Sancho wants Premier League return. Maybe he wants Champions League football. Maybe that will be a defining factor. But United at the front of the queue, like I said 2 weeks ago. Let's see when Dortmund open the door whether we've got the money to pay. £87 million as well was very interesting from what Fabrizio said yesterday. There was so much interesting stuff that he said that I think some of it may have got missed. But he said Dortmund want 100 million euros, which is about 87 to 90 million pounds. That is less than £100 million. So I still think that is a very, very good deal for United if they want to do it. On Thomas Partey, a little bit of a mixture news here. We know that Fabrizio did a tweet in the last week saying that Atletico Madrid want him to stay, and it will be up to Thomas Partey. We then had the source yesterday from Ghana that Flex and Rants were talking about, and a lot of you will have seen, where it said that Thomas Partey loves the link. A lot of people love United, and United loving people back. Love, love, love. Love is all around us. But look, he said that he loves the link with Manchester United, and he wants to move to Premier League. That's from sources close to Thomas Partey. What did Di Marzio said? Di Marzio said all Atletico Madrid players are on the market. He didn't say they're all for sale, but basically the situation at Atletico Madrid, which we've spoken about, potentially not getting Champions League football, spending a lot last summer, the coronavirus crisis, Atletico Madrid are going to have to sell. And that means that Thomas Partey signing a new contract, release clause, need to sell. It's looking interesting with Thomas Partey. And I think when you look at the betting odds, Arsenal are ahead of United just. But I don't know why United wouldn't do this deal. He is, for £43 million, an absolute bargain, who has proven himself that he can do it at the highest level. Now, look, you can't just say, well, he played against Liverpool home and away. That's him and brilliant. But if you watch him elsewhere, he's a very, very good player at a very reasonable price who goes straight into your team at 20, I think he's 27. So for that price, you get 4 years of prime Thomas Partey, 10 million a year. That's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. And it's looking like he's going to go. Now, look, of course, he could sign a new contract at Atletico Madrid. It could all be manoeuvrability to get the best deal. He might just want to stay where he is. He has sort of hinted at that in recent months. But we're now hearing that maybe he wants to move. And it can all be part of the contract process. And as United fans, we must be very careful because we've been used before by so many players, whether it's Ramos, Umtiti, whoever, to get a better contract. Oh, let's use United. But if there's an opportunity to do it, I hope we do it. But you know what I fear? And I saw somebody saying, some of you saying it yesterday. I fear this is a situation where United have got a player that they can go and get that will improve them massively for a reasonable price, and it's there on a plate, but they're going to walk past it and decide they're not hungry. And we've done that before as well. Where are the genuine links that Manchester United are looking at Thomas Partey? And that's what I would say. I haven't really seen that. I've seen plenty of indication that he would want to come to us, but I haven't seen enough that we would want him. And I think that's a mistake on United's part, especially when we need that sort of a midfielder. But we'll just have to wait and see how that develops. But Sancho and Partey time, quite literally, that would be absolutely fantastic. Let's talk about Pogba, because Di Marzio, I've got to talk about Declan Rice. I've got lots to talk about today. But Di Marzio was talking on Sky Sports yesterday, did a Q&A. And I'd seen it be tweeted out the day before, and they were like, get your questions in below. And I thought, well, look, if I get in there quickly, a lot of people will follow me and Sky, so it will get a few likes. And it did. And basically, I just said, what's the future with Paul Pogba? And that was the first question Di Marzio answered on his Q&A. And he basically said that the situation with Paul Pogba is, and I was quite surprised by his answer. He said that the contract of Paul Pogba makes it difficult for him to stay. And he said, because Pogba's only got a year left on his contract. Well, Di Marzio's a very intelligent guy. But Pogba has got more than a year left on his contract. He's got 1 year, and he's got an extension of a year, which we can trigger. So Di Marzio would be aware of that. So I was thinking, well, 1 year left on his contract properly, and then United could trigger the final year. But the problem is, United are in a difficult situation with that. Because some people say, well, it's 2 years. It's not really, it's 1 year, because he's got 1 year left now, and at some point next year, United can trigger another year. But Pogba will still always be in the situation of having 1 year left, which means his value is cheapened. So it's difficult. It's difficult. Coronavirus has made it even more difficult for Pogba to go or clubs to buy him. But remember what Romano said to us yesterday, Fabrizio said yesterday, that Juventus see Pogba as their #1 target. Check out the links to the stories in the video description or in the comments where you can go directly to them. I'll put them there. But what he essentially said about Pogba, or one of the things he said of many things, because he spoke about Real Madrid as well, he said that after getting Ronaldo 2 years ago, De Ligt last year, this summer's about Paul Pogba, but swap deals are what they would like to do. Well, Di Marzio said contact with Juventus in the last few days with Manchester United, and they want to do swap deals. Juventus want to do swap deals. The trouble is, and I've said this before, Juventus may want Pogba, and I'm sure they want to do swap deals, but I would urge United not to do swap deals with Juventus, because unless they're going to give us a Bentancur, who's a top class midfielder who can hold the midfield, or they're going to give us a Ronaldo, or they're going to give us a De Ligt, then I wouldn't look at any player from Juventus that I'd want to swap for. Because every player that they're going to want to give us is a player they don't want anymore. And we're Manchester United, and we want good players. So I don't see a swap deal with Juventus. I don't, because why would they give us one of their players that makes them good? So interesting though that is from Di Marzio talking about the difficulties of keeping Paul Pogba. And remember, Fabrizio said yesterday that there was a scheduled meeting at the start of April between Mino Raiola and United to discuss a potential exit, but that got put off. So the Pogba situation is still very much in the air. We know what Solskjaer said at the end of in the middle of March in a press conference. In fact, Flex asked him the question, and he said you can expect to see Pogba here next season. Well, expectation and reality sometimes are a little bit different. I know that United want to keep Pogba and expect to keep Pogba, but what they haven't had is that meeting where somebody walks in and says, I want to go. That's not happened. That might not happen, but that hasn't happened. And when that happens, well, Manchester United's expectations might change then. But I know that they want to keep him. Let's see what's going to happen with that. Now, we've spoken about Partey. Let's speak about Declan Rice. Sky Cave, who, very, very good journalist, works with Sky Sports last season, last summer. He was first with the Dan James, Wan-Bissaka, very, very good around that sort of thing. Spoke about Declan Rice and basically said, no, that won't happen to Manchester United for 2 reasons. One, West Ham probably won't get relegated, and they won't want to sell a player like Declan Rice if they're in the Premier League. 2, no club will be able to afford the price that West Ham would sell Declan Rice for if they had to sell him. And I think you know, that sort of closes the draw on Declan Rice, because it's interesting, he divided a lot of opinion yesterday. I don't rate Declan Rice. I don't know what Declan Rice would offer us that Scott McTominay doesn't offer. It would be an odd signing. I don't think Declan Rice goes into any side in the top 6. Some people disagreed. I would walk into the United and Chelsea and Arsenal side. I'm like, who are you talking about? I've watched Declan Rice play quite a lot. I think he's got potential, but he's not ready yet. But either way, unless West Ham get relegated, I don't see Declan Rice leaving West Ham, and I don't think West Ham will get relegated. So, you know, price prohibitive, especially in this market, and West Ham won't want to sell. So I don't think anything would happen with that one. What else? Timo Werner. Dimarzio spoke about Timo Werner and Koulibaly on his Q&A. He said about Timo Werner, Werner leaves RB Leipzig for sure this summer. You know, they're looking to get him a move out there, but he wasn't so sure about a move to Liverpool and whether that actually fitted Werner and Liverpool, which was quite interesting. Unfortunately for us United fans, the clubs he mentioned as alternatives to Liverpool were Inter and Juventus. No mention of Manchester United, which again is a little bit like Thomas Partey. If Liverpool aren't signing Werner, why aren't we signing Werner? I mean, I like Timo Werner. I like Timo Werner a lot, and I would like him to come to Manchester United, but I always felt he was going to Liverpool. So you've got to just put your hands up and say, a bit like Fabinho, well done Liverpool, they've got a good player I would like there. But if Liverpool aren't signing Werner, then why are we not at the front of that queue as well? I know the money is stacking up a bit, and Sancho, I totally agree, you can't be too greedy in this market, and Sancho has to be the priority. But you know what, if we can just go that little bit extra and, you know, stretch ourselves a little bit, imagine if you got Sancho, Werner and Partey. I mean, you'd get all three of them for less than 200 million quid. And you'd not need, they'd all be here for, you know, Werner and Sancho would be here for 5 years at least, and the same with Thomas Partey. So the expenditure for three top quality, you know, world-class players, really, I just think, you know, it's going to take a brave team to get success in this transfer market, but if you get it, you're set for years. You know, there you go. So interesting about Werner. Dimarzio also talking about Koulibaly as well. I did ask Fabrizio about this yesterday. He said, you know, I don't think Koulibaly leaves Napoli unless it's for big money. So I don't think United would be looking at that, which is pretty much what we've been saying on this channel for a while. And when I say we, I mean the collective fans just talking about it. But Dimarzio saying Spurs. Now this makes a lot of sense. Dimarzio saying Spurs, Koulibaly. There's a good feeling around that. Well, that makes a lot of sense, because very interesting what Fabrizio said on the show yesterday about Koulibaly, Manchester United, €80 million offer 2 years ago, and Napoli turned it down. Well, who's the manager of Manchester United 2 years ago? Jose Mourinho. Who's the manager of Spurs now? Jose Mourinho. So Koulibaly, Spurs, Jose Mourinho makes a lot of sense. I just don't see how Spurs could afford him. But Dimarzio saying there's a good feeling around that. So watch that. Won't be coming to United. But it did make me think, just very, very quickly, what the situation would have been if Koulibaly had come to United 2 years ago. Because that was the summer that basically finished Mourinho, if you remember. I can't remember who we bought that summer. We did buy somebody, but I can't remember who it was. It was the summer after Lukaku and Matic. And we were being linked to people like Boateng and stuff like that. And we bought, but that was the summer that we tried to get Koulibaly, and that was the summer we just finished second as well. And imagine if we'd got Koulibaly, I think it would have made a big difference. But he was sacked by the Christmas and we didn't get it. So that's how thin margins can be with football sometimes. So yeah, Koulibaly, we've spoken about. Pogba, we've spoken about. Dimarzio, Afri Atletico player, Liverpool. Werner, Koulibaly, Partey, Declan Rice, Paul Pogba. Havertz, this is a story coming out the Evening Standard that Havertz is a potential alternative for Jadon Sancho. I mean, Havertz is a centre attacking midfielder. I mean, this is a bit similar to what the Athletic were talking about a couple of days ago about Jack Grealish being brought in as a right winger. Very quiet around Jack Grealish as well at the moment. I know a couple of weeks ago Grealish was pretty much up there with Sancho all the time. It's interesting how we've had a week of a lot of reputable outlets and journalists talking about Manchester United, answering questions about Manchester United, and very little coming out about Jack Grealish. Locally, because I live in the Midlands, there's always stories about Grealish, but it's people talking about Grealish. It's ex-footballers going, Grealish should be perfect for United. It's not any noise from United, and it's not any noise around Grealish. It's gone quiet on that, but that might be just because of what Grealish did a few weeks ago, and United want to sort of distance themselves, and Grealish wants to go quiet a bit and lets everybody be quiet for a bit, and then, you know, the football's not even back yet. So yeah, a little bit quiet on that. But Havertz as a right winger, I mean, I don't want to read these sort of stories. If we're looking at alternatives, as Fabrizio Romano said, Chiesa from Italy. Let's get a proper winger. I don't want to see Grealish on the right wing. I don't want to see Havertz on the right wing. This is what we did with Mata. I've said it before. We need a right winger, and Jadon Sancho has to be numero one priority. But if we don't get him, you got to look at somebody else, I think. And but I would want it to be Jadon Sancho, and I expect it to be that. So look, loads of interesting stuff in there. I feel I've probably skimmed over stuff that we could have really delved into, and maybe we will do that at 8 o'clock tonight. I've never known a show like it. Obviously, a lot of it's to do with our interview with Fabrizio last night, which if you haven't watched it, I'll drop everything in the video comments with the timestamp so you can read those specific bits about Pogba, Sancho, Chiesa, Lingard, etc. We'll delve into some of this in a lot more depth tonight at 8 o'clock, but I feel there'll be probably more stuff coming out in the day as that's what happens. And then all the stuff that Sky did with Sky Cave and Demarcio as well. This is golden stuff. I think I've covered most of it. Get your comments in below. There's a lot to digest today, and we'll be back at 8 o'clock tonight live. Make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and I'll pop the stuff in the video description and the comments so that you can check out all the relevant bits of the Fabrizio Romano interview, which, you know, I've watched it 3 times and I did it. Fantastic interview, and there's so much in there. Every time you watch it, you get different bits. Thanks everyone for all your support. I just want to say as well that everything we're doing on this lockdown, whether it's Troy Deeney, Clive Tilsley, Fabrizio Romano, the Norwich lads, all the great guests we've had is because of you. This channel started off as nothing. A lot of people try and still try to spread lies and nonsense about it, and then when you face up to them, they don't say anything. That's just life, the way it works. But these barriers we climb together, and we keep climbing up the mountain together. So thank you. You're on this journey. It's your journey. It's your channel. It always has been, and I really appreciate it. And look, everything we're doing is yours. The interview, go and enjoy it. It's for you. That's why we do it. Somebody said, thank you for it. You've not put it behind a paywall or put it on a Patreon page or asked us for a membership of 50 quid to watch it. We're not going to do that. You know, people do super chats, people become members, and that's of your own back to support the channel. But we're not going to charge you to watch interviews. We're fans, you're fans, it's your channel. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like. I'll speak to you soon.